Welcome to the program. I'm Andrew Wilkow. First, let me start with an honest and sincere thank you to all the veterans out there. Those of you who have bravely served and those who are still representing our country and proudly protecting our freedom. I know we have soldiers, not just in Afghanistan, but located at bases all around the world. Some pretty horrible places, I might add. Some have yet to be deployed, and others are on the ground protecting our embassies. It's scary when you think about how many places an American soldier or Marine can be deployed to. Some pretty awful, awful places. As Commander-in-Chief of our military, the President is responsible for all the U.S. Armed Forces, the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard. The President decides where troops shall be stationed, where ships will be sent, and how weapons will be used. All military generals and admirals take their orders from the President. Remember, Osama bin Laden is dead. You know, the sad thing is, Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution places the responsibility for raising and supporting armies and navies squarely in the hands of Congress. But the Commander-in-Chief, that power is solely vested in the President via Article 2 of the United States Constitution. No one else. It's him. When you run for that office, when you say, I want to be President, you're saying, I want to be the Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Armed Forces. When we hear that things fall through the cracks or the President's really busy, like when he's campaigning or hobnobbing with celebrities, he's ignoring the thing he's constitutionally expected to do, be Commander-in-Chief. But he has made false promises to our armed forces. Early in my radio career, I spoke with the executive director of the National Coalition of Homeless Veterans, and I was shocked and dismayed. I walked away from the conversation with the understanding that veterans in need are basically last in line for money or help because they don't have powerful lobbyists the way advocates of welfare or amnesty do. They certainly don't have the fundraising machinery of Planned Parenthood. In his Veterans Day speech at Arlington National Cemetery, the President reminded our veterans just how grateful we are for their service.
After a decade of war, our heroes are coming home. And over the next few years, more than 1 million service members will transition back to civilian life. They'll take off their uniforms and take on a new and lasting role. They will be veterans. As they come home, it falls to us, their fellow citizens, to be there for them and their families. Not just now, but always. Not just for the first few years, but for as long as they walk this earth.
No, you see, we are there for them. When we pay our taxes, we expect the government to fund their health care. Again, that's one of the few things the federal government's supposed to do with our tax money, which is now in jeopardy thanks to Obamacare. Let me give you a little history. The 11th of November was formerly known as Armistice Day, which was celebrated to commemorate the end of the Great War, or better known as World War I. The unknown soldier was laid to rest in both France and England on the 11th day at the 11th hour of the 11th month. In 1921, the U.S. also laid to rest at Arlington Cemetery an unknown soldier, his name known but to God. From World War I, the site is now known as the Tomb of the Unknowns and symbolizes the dignity and reverence for the American veteran. Now, many countries celebrate Armistice Day, but it wasn't until Franklin Delano Roosevelt passed legislation by Congress in 1938, making it a federal holiday. Then at the end of the Korean War in 1954, Congress amended the act to use the word veterans instead of armistice. The reason was so that that day would honor everyone who served their country, and President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed that bill into law. Now, that's originally why we see people wearing little red poppy pins, like this one. It's to honor veterans. The red poppy pin became a symbol for veterans from the poem In Flanders Field, written by Canadian military physician Colonel John McCrae in 1915. Here's a verse from the poem that illustrates why the poppy is worn. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from falling hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.